Courtroom buzz lights up the air. Faces tense as stories tear. Truth and lies like a tango dance. Justice here takes no chance. Gavel strikes, hearts beat fast. Witness takes and shadows cast. Whispers loud like wildfire spread. In this game, none's ahead. International eyes on the scene. Lines of right blurred and lean. Arrested dreams, shattered glass. In this court, who holds the past?
Um, I'm a professional streamer that forgot to turn on the mic. Thank you very much, Toxic. So good morning. Re-saying everything. It is Friday. It's gonna be a good day. We've made it through the week. I apparently need more coffee because I don't know what am I doing. I think it's the nails. I don't know why, but I was talking to Nightbot, right? And I am so nervous for today's stream. I don't know why. I've been streaming for about 4 months now on a daily, and I'm so nervous because we're doing something new, and I am a little bit scared of, because I've never really done like something like this. We normally come in, chat for a little bit, do a recap of the day that we had the day before out of court, and then we jump into court, and that's what we do for the rest of the day. And then we chat a little bit more, and then we go on break, and then that's it, and then court finishes, and then we have verdict watch. And that part, I love it, it's amazing. This part, it's new, so I am a teeny tiny nervous. And also, like I said, I normally don't get my nails done because I work in a bakery, health and safety and everything, and I decided to do my nails. I don't know if you can see, but I did my nails this morning because I'm on vacation, and I decided, oh well, let me treat myself into my nails. I did it myself. It's fake nails. It's not my own nails. And now I can't type. I cannot type on my phone. I can't type on a keyboard. I am struggling to Oh, thank you, Toxic. I'm struggling to survive to do this. But without further ado, let's get started the stream of today. Today we're going to do something different. We are going to do some research on court cases that are upcoming. We have, and I'm gonna ask maybe Toxic or Nightbot to put the link in the chat for the Discord server. And oh, good morning. Oh, it is okay, Kay. Welcome in, welcome in. Take your seat, everybody. Thank you. I decided to do it today. So, like I was saying, we have a Discord server called As the Gavel Drops, where we have a bunch of documents about ongoing cases, big cases, little cases. We have documents, we have court hearings, we have all the information that you need more and above. And we as a group on the Discord server, the mods, we have cases that are assigned to us to make sure that they're still updated, they're still ongoing, they haven't taken a plea, and that sort of stuff. So I have my own docket to work. I have quite a few cases that I have as my responsibility. And I thought today, because there was no court, because they aren't only going to come back until Monday, I thought, why not doing some research with my friends on stream and talk about the Discord server. It is great. There's a bunch of people there. They are amazing. Toxic, it's and Lewis and Kay. It's one of them. I need to get Nightbot on it. But yeah, and I literally live on there. Because there's all the cases information, there's the court documents, the indictments. It is a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. So let's get started. So the first case that we are going to see today, and I'm not going to share the Discord because I haven't gotten I have my own personal Discord, so I don't have one that normal people see, and I don't want to share it without being shared information that shouldn't be shared. So this first case that we are gonna see is out of Indiana, of Marion County, Indiana, and on the title of it you have the case number that you see that I just posted. So we can go in into the court records. All this information is public anyway, so I'm not sharing anything that I shouldn't. Don't worry, all information is public, it's out there. We just have a Discord server that we can gather all that information and make easily and readily accessible for everybody else out there. So all this information, it's privy to everyone that has a computer, has the internet, because in the American court system is very open about this. Give me just 1 second. I need to get something done that I've forgotten to do before I started streaming. Okay, sorry. I just needed to communicate with Nightbot for a second. So, our defendant is called Andre Brisky out of Indiana. So, what normally we do, because he has a coming up, a court date, sorry, coming up on a February the 3rd. Normally, what we do is just to make sure that that date still stands. So, on the screen, hopefully, you can see here we have some the dates of all everything that has already happened on this case, when he was indicted, discovery, probate causes, everything else. Like, for example, we can see here, I don't know if you can see the one that is selected right now. He is not on bond, so you got a rejected bond. To be so it means that he's still in jail holding for trial. So it's just a lot of all the information about the course, the court hearings and everything. So normally I just call it down to make sure that the date of the trial still stands here. So the 3rd of February, so yes, that is still good. And then we can see that he already had 2 jury trials rescheduled, so it keeps getting postponed. So hopefully this trial stands. By the looks of it, it doesn't has a hearing coming up, so I'm sure that that trial stands. So that's how we normally update. And then some courts we can have access to the documents. This one I haven't um seen how to get is so that's the details of the parties, like for the state of Indiana, who is the attorney, and then who is the attorney for the defendant and everything. So it's just, you can see all that information. And then we were saying actually earlier, is just the charge, how the charge of it. So now, 1 second, give me 1 second. I need to check one thing. Sorry about that. I am back. I was just fixing something. So that's basically it. Okay, now I want to. The next case that we are gonna do is um a case that actually I'm planning to follow on the channel next week. So we can actually do some a bit more in depth search about this guy, and then we can maybe see some videos from hearings that he had already. I'm gonna go on YouTube. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a moment just to do something. You can still kind of see me down in the corner, but I am just trying to get um him up. So his name is Colin Griffin, and he's out of Florida. Because as you guys know, all the good cases come off from Florida. Um, and it is charged for unaliving his mom, and his court is actually due to start um next week. So this document, this case is also all in on the gavel, as the gavel drops, so you can find the information there as well. But what I was going to say is we could have a look a bit inside of the case, and then discuss this case, because I was going to say I think it starts on Monday with the jury selection for this case, and then on the jury selection starts on Monday, like I was saying, and then it's I don't think, because the attorney was talking the other day, they don't think that it's gonna take a whole morning or a whole day to find jury for this case, because it's not as a big case as the one that is starting today in LA. So they might have openings on Monday. What I was thinking was that, because we still are covering Natalie, and that they say they might give the case to the jury on Tuesday, what we could do is, while we are on verdict watch from Natalie Cochran, is watching the opening statement for this case. And then as soon Natalie Cochran finishes, we can just jump on straight to this guy, Collin, and then go from there. And then we don't have to wait until a new trial starts. So, hi! Oh, Susan, I have to thank you. I have to thank you for this great selection of this case, to actually, seeing who would be um to do. It is a very sad case, but it's also a quite of a good case. All the cases, sadly, that we cover, either on this channel or in the true crime community, they're all sad, and this guy definitely have some issues, but we need to carry on doing so. Actually, the first video that we're gonna watch is from our friends at somewhere, Core TV, that talks about this case. He investigates Vinny. Is about Vinny investigating this case. So we're gonna watch that one first while I'm doing something in the background, and then we can carry on watching like the body cams that they've been doing, some trial prep research about this guy, and then see what we can find out there. About him. I'm also going to be on the chat, and while this is going, so give me 1 second while I am setting up this, because doing this on the go, which is always amazing. Oh, before we do start this one, so 1 second. I am going to be, because ASAP Rocky actually starts his trial today. He is out of California, and he is the partner of Rihanna, and is going to go on a trial today for assault charges, which he declined 180 days in jail, plea deal, and now is facing 24 years in prison for those assault charges. His trials starts today, and I am gonna do I'm gonna watch the trial probably on my spare time after our stream and everything, and then I'm gonna try to do either daily recaps or every 2-day recaps, because I am on vacation for the week until the following Monday, so I have a bit of free time and I can stay up until late to watch the trial. I am not streaming because we have two trials going on. I want to cover this guy Collin, and because afterwards I do go back to work and it doesn't really match my schedule at the moment. So because LA, it's 8 hours difference, it's a bit much, but I will still be covering. And then I know it is crazy. I was like, how can you reject 180 days in jail? This was him staying in jail and not going to prison, the big boys prison. But now he is facing 24 years. And apparently, Rihanna, his partner, everyone knows Rihanna, I think. She is planning on attending one day of the trial. So, I mean, he's crazy for rejecting that deal. He needs some help, and I am looking forward to watch that trial. I'm very sad I can't stream it, but anyway, now we're gonna listen to this. We're gonna probably listen the whole thing because Vinny does explain about the trial and everything. I can agree. I don't really like Vinny, but he is a good thing, and he's a news anchor type person. So let's watch that one. I will be on chat, and I'll speak to you guys very, very soon.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the case of 17-year-old Collin Griffith, who took the life of his father 1 year, then took the life of his mother the following year. It's a story that has many people asking a lot of questions. Here's more. This is 17-year-old Collin Griffith. His story is tragic and extremely violent. And to understand it, there are three important incidents you have to understand. The first occurred in February of 2023 in Lincoln County, Oklahoma. Collin called 911 after an altercation with his father. Collin said his father had a knife and had him cornered, so he shot and killed him. Prosecutors determined it was self-defense. The second incident was in November of 2023 in Florida, where Collin was charged with domestic violence for beating his mother. Then, in September of 2024, law enforcement was called to Collin's grandmother's house, where Collin's mother was found stabbed to death. Investigators did not believe Collin's story, and he was charged with his mother's murder and will be tried as an adult. Okay, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in, like boom, 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 these three incidents, but they're important. So he's with his father. He claims he's cornered, takes out his father, shoots and kills him, okay? So that's in Oklahoma. Then he moves to Florida to live with his mother. Okay, so everyone knows that he's already killed his father. All the people in his life know that. He's taken the life of his father, but it was determined by investigators there at the time that this was self-defense. So now there's an incident in November of 2023. Remember, the killing of his father is earlier that year. Now he's living with mom, and there's an incident, a domestic violence incident. We have body cam video of it. As you watch it, remember, he's already taken the life of his father a few months earlier in Oklahoma. Now he's in Florida with his mother, and there's a call to 911 because of what's happened between him and his mother. Take a look and notice his demeanor.
I can't see without my glasses. I don't know where they went. Hi.
Hello.
Who's who?
I'm Deputy Jankowski, and nice to meet you.
Just pop in.
So what's going on?
When we got there,
I just want to check your pocket really first.
oh yeah.
Yeah, here, just put your hands on top of your head. You're not in trouble. We just want to make sure you don't have any weapons.
I know you called Rentis for help, so I respect you for that.
Just gonna check around your waistband.
So we got there. I was on the phone with Rentis.
Thank you.
She talked to Rentis and talked to him about a bunch of in front of me. I got off the phone with Rentis. We sat down and we ate, and she started talking to me about how a bunch of really bad. And then when I got up and was like, you can't just do that, and she was telling me to shut up, she hit me in the face, and then I reacted like this. She grabbed onto me. I hit her in the stomach, and then I'm a wrestler. It was just reactive. Grabbed her. She got to the ground. I grabbed the phone. I started recording, and then I left. Okay, so.
So she hit you in the face?
Yeah.
But we've been through this. You called Rensis because you know you kind of messed up, right?
No, it's because I didn't know who else to call, and I knew that, and I wanted to make sure he knew first off.
Okay. So you put her in a headlock?
No, not a headlock. It's
I'm not going to have you show me because obviously that would be silly on my part, right?
So basically, it's like when someone grabs onto you, what you do to get them off of you is you go like this, and then you can just dash away and get away.
Okay, so you did that? You pushed her off of you?
I just got her off of me.
But where did the knee come in and all that?
When she grabbed onto me and she started going at me, I just instinctively, like, my knee went up, and I guess I hit her in the stomach.
Was that before the throwing her off? Or?
That was before. Yeah.
Okay.
Was your grandma here?
She was here. Yeah.
Did she see what's going on?
I don't know.
His demeanor, I mean, he is very calm. I mean, extremely calm. Don't forget now, this is in November, and then this incident of domestic violence with his mother, all right, a few months after he has killed his father. It was self-defense, according to investigators in Oklahoma. Now he's in Florida. Domestic violence. He ends up getting arrested in all this, and then he's out. And he ends up several months later killing his mother. This is mind-boggling to me, but I can understand the confusion because things are happening in a couple states, his calm demeanor, but it brings me to the first question in my investigation, which is, could this have been prevented? Again, I'm scratching my head here that his mother's life has been taken, but there's domestic violence. He's already taken the life of his father. Joining me on the phone, clinical and forensic psychologist and author, Dr. Leslie Dobson is with us. Also joining us, retired homicide detective Chris Anderson. Thank you both for joining us. Chris, let me start with you first and what we saw on the scene. This is a domestic violence call, and the demeanor of this young man who's just had like a throwdown with his mom.
Yeah, so what you see, and when you see especially a young child reacting the way that he does after he's been in a life-ending battle with his mother, it says a lot about his personality and who he is. His response to me is rather strange. It calls into mind that unfortunately, he is not new to talking to law enforcement about some of the interactions he's had with his mother, and it's painful to watch. It says a lot about his demeanor when he's involved in an incident such as this.
Let's take a listen now to Collin's grandmother and what she tells officers about what Collin is telling her.
Under the treatment plan that we have, if there's issues, then he comes and stays with me. Okay. So that's what happened last night. So then this morning, they were over here for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Who's they? Him and your...
Lacey and the corporal. Okay. So they were over here for 2 hours, maybe 3, because Collin did not want to come back home. Okay. And I said, you don't have a choice. You have to go back home. And he said, no, I want foster care. And even the corporal was saying, foster care isn't going to be good for you. You have issues. You have to work on them.
Okay, so Grandma's saying that he's saying he wants to be in foster care. He killed his father. Now he's with his mother. He has assaulted his mother. He's telling his grandmother he doesn't want to be with his mother, and then he wants to be in foster care, but he ends up back with his mother, and then his mother ends up dead. Dr. Leslie Dobson, what is going, this is it just seemed like this was a powder keg that was getting ready to explode again.
Correct. Hi. Yeah, I definitely think that this should have been taken more seriously initially, and it's shocking. And I know that people were very much against this teenager being released because they feared that he was psychopathic and dangerous and would engage in harm again.
Let's take a listen to Collin again. This is again on the body cam video. I want you to remember, this is one day after he has assaulted his mother, right? This is before he kills his mother, but one day after he assaulted her. Take a listen and a look.
Basically, why we came back is when the jail was releasing you to your mom this morning, was there anything said then?
Yeah, I said that I didn't really feel safe there with myself and with her, and that I didn't know what was going to happen. I still don't know what's going to happen.
As far as what?
Her attacking me or her doing something to herself or me.
Okay, what about you doing something to her? Are you able to control yourself?
I'm in a constant state of fight or flight, and I don't know. If I think she's going to do something, even if she's not, I might act. I'm not going to go crazy or anything, but I'm not sure, honestly.
I'm trying to figure out why we would have a corporal at the jail that took you out, that dropped you off to your mom and telling us that you said, "Don't put me in the car with her, I'm going to kill her."
Yeah.
Was that said?
I did not say I was going to kill her. I did not say kill. I don't know why he sent me back here. I asked him not to. Is this an arrest or a Baker Act? It is.
So they're taking him back into custody. They're using the Baker Act because of psychological issues that he's going through. He apparently had threatened to kill his mother while he was in jail the day before after being arrested for domestic violence. They bring him back to his home. Then they find out about the threats, and then they come back to pick him up. Chris Anderson, this is a difficult spot for law enforcement. You're stuck in the middle of what's happening in this family. The child obviously has some mental issues, and law enforcement is in the middle, trying to keep everybody safe, but he's threatening to kill his mother. Now, he doesn't kill her for several more months after this, but he does end up killing her. And I'm wondering how our whole system sort of let this happen.
So yeah, this is very interesting because the videos that you showed and the ones that are probably haven't been revealed to the public yet are going to become very important factors into this case. And for not only for the defense either, it'll be for the prosecution also. What you learn in cases, determining cases whether when a tragedy like this happens, determining what could have been prevented it's going to require a closer look at the family and the dynamics, the warning signs, any interventions or the lack thereof that may have prevented something like this happening. These cases there are oftentimes just underlying issues such as abuse and mental health and struggles and escalating conflicts that happen for a case to reach this aptitude. So, there's going to be a lot of investigation that still has to go into these cases. But I truly believe that those two videos will be very important, and not just for the prosecution, for the defense also.
Absolutely. All right. Chris is going to stick around as well as Dr. Dobson. Coming up next, should he have been removed from the family? A former pharmacist already convicted in a federal fraud case
Now stands trial for the murder of Elliot.
This is eerie, right? You've got the officers who are returning him because he's released from the jail, bringing him back to his mother, but he said that something's going to happen to her. Now that's in November of 23. He doesn't end up taking her life until the following year, the following September of 24. But November 23, they're returning back saying, and she's going to die. You bring her back here, she's going to die. So she finally does die. Like I said, September of 24. Here's the Sheriff Grady Judd from Polk County, Florida, explaining what happened here.
It all started on September the 8th, which was this last Sunday, when we got a 911 call from Collin Griffith, who's 17 years of age. And here's what he said. He said he and his mother had a very long fight, and she fell on a knife and killed herself. And she's bleeding from the neck. He didn't say she killed herself, said he's bleeding from the neck. So our 911 operators appropriately were giving them instructions on how to do life-saving techniques. When the deputies arrived, he met the deputies outside, and he was calm, cool, collected, not upset, and he had blood on him. What we found inside was this knife. This knife is 12 inches long, and of the 12 inches, 8 inches of that is the blade. So he's saying that his mother fell on this knife. The medical examiner said it is not reasonable or plausible that she died the way that he said she did. As we start to peel back the layer of this onion, we find out that this is not just a singular event with Collin stabbing his mother in the neck and ultimately killing her. Here's what we found, and follow me as I read a timeline to you. On February 14th, 2023, on Valentine's Day, in Lincoln County, Oklahoma. There's a Lincoln County, Nebraska too. In Lincoln County, Oklahoma, Collin said that his dad pulled a knife on him, and he shot and killed his dad. In March of 23, just barely a month after the original murder of his father, he came to Charlotte County, Florida to live with his mother. 6 months later, guess what happened? He's Baker acted. So it's September, and as he's getting out of the original Baker Act, he makes a statement that, well, I'll kill myself, or I'll kill my mother by shooting or stabbing her. Charlotte County re-Baker acts him the same exact day. They keep him 3 more days. November 2023. Collin then is arrested for domestic violence on his mother. And the reason he battered his mother is because she was disciplining him and took his video game privileges away. 3 months later, 12th of February in 2024, he has an argument with his mother, and he runs away from Charlotte County and comes back to Auburndale to his grandmother's house. The grandmother said, hey, we don't feel safe with him around. So our deputies who found him up here as a missing persons reported in Charlotte County turned him over to DCF. 2 days later, on the 14th of February, the anniversary of him killing his dad a year ago, he's reunited with his mother. Collin made the statement that I don't want to go home. I'll use any force necessary to avoid it, to include killing my mother. So that's the second time he threatened to kill his mother.
So the sheriff does a nice job laying out how all of this sort of evolved over the course of just over a year, which brings me to the next question in my investigation. Should he have been removed from the family? Because he's back with his mom. She ends up dead. Should he have been removed from the family in light of everything that was happening there? And if so, how do you do it? Joining me, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt and retired Massachusetts Juvenile Court Judge Carol Erskine. Thank you both for being here. Okay, so I'll begin with you, Judge. Should he have been removed? And if so, who has to do something to make that happen?
Well, I think he absolutely should have been removed. I'm just amazed that he was released from jail and also released from a 72-hour hold where he's actually telling people that he's going to kill his mother or kill himself. And they say, okay, we've held you for 72 hours, and then they release him. And this is a common occurrence with parent-child domestic violence cases. I think one of the things that is so different about parent-child domestic violence cases, and I've seen hundreds of them, is that when a court releases or jail releases a juvenile, they're essentially releasing him back to not only their custodian, but to their victim. And that doesn't happen with adults. When you have an adult domestic violence case, there's bail, maybe there's not. But no judge is saying to the victim, you have to take your abuser home with you. And so that's the conundrum that judges have to deal with. Every single domestic violence case that I heard involving a juvenile and a parent, I had to look at what are the facts, what are the safety issues. Everyone should have been doing, in this case, a lethality assessment, because if they had, there is no way that they would have sent him home, because he met every criteria by which it should have been decided that there was a risk of lethality in this case. There was already prior violence. There were protective orders. There were violations of protective orders.
Well, it's beyond violence. I mean, he did take his father's life. It was ruled self-defense. Jennifer Brandt, I want to ask you, he seemed to indicate at one point that he didn't want to go back home. How does... Like, he's a 17-year-old kid. He's not going to hire a lawyer, but does he have any rights to not be sent back there? Or is he a child, so he's got to do whatever DCF or someone else is saying he has to do?
Well, he has rights in terms of the court does need to listen to him and consider his statements, his opinion. But you have to look at this in the context of everything. I mean, he had killed his father. It was ruled self-defense. I understand that the mother and the father had been estranged from each other, and there had been some custody litigation that had gone on in the past where he didn't see the mother for quite some time. So from her perspective, I mean, I understand the judge says she's the victim here, but also she's a mom who hasn't had her child for a long time. So from her perspective, she probably was not looking to have him go into foster care or into the system, and probably wanted him back, and maybe felt that if he were with her, she could, get things right and hopefully help him, knowing that he had some serious issues. Of course, I think she blames some of those issues on the deceased father and the lifestyle that they had when they were together, when he had custody of the son. So it's a little bit of an unusual case because no one really knows what's going on in the household. And you have a 17-year-old saying, well, I don't want to go back to my mother. And yes, he has problems, that's for sure. But in the context of things, unless she was really fighting it as well, you could see how a court would say, no, the best place for you to go is with your parent and not into the foster system with strangers, with a strange family.
Yeah, Judge, this is such a difficult case, and we've got more to talk about. Judge Carol Erskine and Jennifer Brandt are going to stay with us. Up next, why did Collin kill his father?
Circle.com.
I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of 17-year-old Collin Griffith, who took the lives of both his parents, one in 2023 and the other in 2024. Here's the story. 17-year-old Collin Griffith has been charged with murder. He will be tried as an adult. The victim, his own mother. Collin is accused of stabbing her to death after running away from his home to his grandmother's home. He did it when his mother showed up to try to bring him home. For Collin, this is not his first interaction with law enforcement. In November of 2023, he was charged with domestic violence for attacking his mom. And earlier that year,
he killed his father. Investigators concluded it was done in self-defense, and now investigators are taking a second look.
Have to take another look, right? Now, these things happened in two different states. It was in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, where he killed his father, and then it was in Florida where he killed his mother. So he's been charged for murdering his mother. But now there's a lot of talk about what happened in Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, there's been talk about it by the sheriff in Florida. Here's Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd talking about what happened in Oklahoma.
We find out that this is not just a singular event with Collin stabbing his mother in the neck and ultimately killing her. Here's what we found. And follow me as I read a timeline to you. On February 14th, 2023, on Valentine's Day, in Lincoln County, Lincoln County, Oklahoma. There's a Lincoln County, Nebraska too. In Lincoln County, Oklahoma, Collin said that his dad pulled a knife on him. And he shot and killed his dad. That's right. His father was named Charles. He shot him once in the chest and once in the head, and he claimed self-defense. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations charged Collin with murder in the first degree. They dropped the charges less than a month later. They said they could not disprove Collin's assertion of self-defense. So he was released.
Okay. He asserted self-defense. And prosecutors, you have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was murder. And part of that burden is proving that it wasn't self-defense. This all brings us to the next question in my investigation. Why did Collin kill his father? Was it self-defense? Was he being threatened? Was something else going on here? How do you figure it out? Joining me, clinical and forensic psychologist and author, Dr. Leslie Dobson, and retired homicide detective Chris Anderson. Chris, let me start with you. Trying to disprove self-defense. It's difficult. There's only two people there, and one of them's dead.
Right. It is very difficult. And it's been something that I've had to do multiple times in my career. Proving a homicide case is understandably, it is the hardest thing to do. It's the hardest case of investigations that you'll have to work. But to answer the question of why he killed his father, I'm glad that answering the question why is not a part of the standard that is required for finding someone guilty of a homicide case, because the whys are the hardest thing to answer. Why someone did something is extremely hard to prove or hard to even insert in a case such as homicide. So you can always prove how it happened, where it happened, and when it happened through science and investigation work. But why is extremely hard. And truthfully, we may never know. We may never fully know why this case happened or if it could have been stopped.
Yeah, and if he's asserting self-defense, he's saying he did it because he was going to be killed and he had to save himself. But how do you disprove that is challenging. Okay, Dr. Leslie Dobson, let's get into the mind of this now 17-year-old. In light of what we know now, these domestic violence incidents, these Baker Acts, and then the killing of his mother as well, do you think a forensic psychiatric evaluation of this 17-year-old could uncover the answers to these questions, specifically why he killed his father?
I don't think there was a violence risk assessment done. Everything seemed to have been
forgiven quite quickly with his father. I found it very odd. Himself, when he was being detained, used the word psychopath, saying, this boy seems way too familiar with violence and killing and understanding what was happening in the system. I think they should have paused, placed this boy on hold, and violence and psychological risk assessment and personality assessment.
So where does this type of behavior come from in someone that is this young? Could it be a product of what has happened to him in his life? Is it something that you're born with? You're just wired differently? What are your thoughts there on where this type of behavior could come from?
There is definitely a genetic predisposition to psychopathy, and we've seen it as early as age 5, mutilating animals, starting fires, exacerbated by traumatic and just horrible parenting. And what sounds like his father wasn't very kind to him. So yes, it can be exacerbated. But with that said, it doesn't mean that there is something unique about this person where he decided both his parents in different states, in different settings, without the combination. It would be one thing if they were both together and we're thinking the Menendez. This is completely different. He did it twice. And very quickly try to cover his crime with lies.
Okay, Chris Anderson, let me ask you this. Now the folks in Oklahoma know what's happened down in Florida. Do they take a second look at this? Is there a different approach to the investigation in light of what has transpired with his mother?
Absolutely, you take a second look at it. If there's not a second look taken at that case, with what's happened to his mother, then the district attorney, the officers that investigated that case, and the public there's been a huge disservice to the people that they serve. So you absolutely take a second look at that case and to see if there's any place where there may have been a mistake that was made. So and it's always good to have a second set of eyes in cases like this. So you absolutely must take a second look at this case.
You know, Dr. Leslie Dobson, something else that was noticed by a lot of folks, he made 911 calls. There seems to be some level of similarity to it. Do you think there was, is this someone who is dangerous beyond his family? Is this someone who could be potentially dangerous to other inmates if he ever gets out, or if he's put in a juvenile facility? Is there danger? Is it someone that could be that damaged, or is it possible that whatever's inside of him is focused solely at the people directly in his life, his own family?
I don't know that we have to say that it was really truly directed at his mother. Very impulsively makes statements that he didn't was going to harm her. And so there may be a compulsion to do that to others. This level of violence is very dangerous. And yes, I would definitely think that he and have impulsivity issues and need a full assessment of what is going on, as well as pulling all his school records, talking to family. What's this kid been doing for 17 years? Can look at and then use to understand the projection.
And Chris, one final question. We only have a few seconds here, but I think the folks in Florida were put in a tough spot, not necessarily knowing what had happened in Oklahoma, at least initially in these calls. If they had known, do you think they may have taken different actions?
That's a tough one. I would expect for you to take as many actions required or as necessary to protect your victim, which was his mother at the time. So I don't think that you should, heighten your awareness to things that have happened. Yeah, but I just don't. That's a tough question to answer. For me, I would expect for you to do treat people the same way in any call, in any situation. So if this is a call for violence or something that may end in violence, then you should have started that in the beginning.
Chris Anderson, Dr. Leslie Dobson, great to have you with us. Thanks so much for your valuable time. Still to come, should the jury know about Collin killing his father?
He attacked me, my dad, and when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So,
Okay.
how's that? I
How are we doing, guys? We're good? Okay.
You're on very shaky ground. That is unreal.
People wanted answers, and people started locking their doors.
I did not do it to hurt anybody.
You know what it means. You know what you did, right?
Please hear me out. Please.
This was a real life soap opera. And I said, OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty.
So I came to live with her after my dad died, and since then, there's just been kind of times when things boil over with her.
He mentions to police, Collin Griffith, that he came to live with his mom after his father died. Well, his father didn't just die. It wasn't like he passed away. He was shot and killed by Collin. Collin claimed self-defense. And investigators said they couldn't disprove it, so nothing happened to him. So he went down to Florida to be with his mom. Let's take a listen to more of Collin Griffith talking about shooting his father.
He attacked me, my dad, and when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So, how's that? I shot him when he tried to kill me.
Did you already have a gun in your hand?
I was fleeing, and the house was filled with guns, 23 to be exact. And
You knew who they were?
I didn't seek one out. I was just trying to run, but then I was cornered, and I had nothing else. There was a gun. And
What was he trying to do?
he's also a bit of a case, but yeah.
So now police knew that he had killed his father, and this again is before he kills his mother. But now he has killed his mother and he's charged with murdering his mother, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. And it's about the trial for murdering his mother. Should the jury know about Collin killing his father? He wasn't prosecuted for it. He claimed self-defense. They said they couldn't disprove it. But should the jury know about Collin killing his father? Joining me, family law attorney Jennifer Brandt and retired Massachusetts Juvenile Court Judge Carol Erskine. Okay, Jennifer Brandt, what are your thoughts here? Should that jury know?
Well, I think that the jury should know, but it is prejudicial for him, especially because he was released on those charges. But I would say if they re-examine the case and reopen those charges and actually charge him criminally for shooting his father, then yes, absolutely, the jury should know, because, you know, you got even a similar story here. He said in this case that his mother sort of came at him, or they had a fight and she fell on the knife. And you hear him telling the police, oh yeah, my dad was coming at me and, you know, I had nothing. There were a lot of guns around and I just happened to grab one and shoot him. I had no other choice. So, I mean, it sounds very similar, these stories, and he seems very cold and calculating. So I don't think the jury even needs to know, given the crime against his mother, but it certainly would help prosecutors.
And we've seen other cases where prior incidents, and sometimes like in the Stair case, the prior incident came in for something that the defendant wasn't even prosecuted for in another country. So we have seen instances where this comes in. Judge, what are your thoughts on this? Because, you know, prejudicial versus probative, but when we hear that he also killed his father and he killed his mother and he's going to claim that his father was coming at him with a knife, my mother was coming at me with a knife, 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's easier to put the pieces together.
Yes, I think, it seems like it should be able to come in, but Florida, like most states, has a prior bad acts rule that keeps evidence of prior bad acts out. There's only there's an exception in the rule in Florida that it can come in under certain circumstances. And those circumstances are that if it can prove motive or intent or knowledge related to the crime that is being tried, then there's a possibility. But I think on balance, it's so incredibly prejudicial that I just think the prejudicial aspect outweighs the probative aspect. And the other thing to consider, which is in most states, is that prior bad acts of a defendant when they were a juvenile are often barred from coming in. So I think there are a number of reasons that a judge would likely keep it out. I'm not sure he could get a fair trial if that came in. I think there could be Sixth Amendment issues.
And you hit the nail on the head. He's a juvenile. He will be tried in Florida as an adult. Looking at this case, Jennifer Brandt, I don't know. I don't know if he's going to say self-defense again. I don't think he's necessarily going to go there, but it seems that there's absolutely a psychological aspect to this whole thing going on here.
Definitely. I think that is his best defense is, his mental state, his insanity, something along those lines would be the best defense for him, because self-defense is not going to work, especially when you hear him months earlier saying that don't put me back in there, I might kill my mother. I mean, it sounds like he was thinking about it, or something that people should have been aware of, that this was something that could have happened. So I think he would be hard pressed for him to argue self-defense, even though he tried by explaining that she just, or he said it was sort of an accident, that she just happened to fall on the knife, which was implausible.
Judge, we often talk about not wanting to send children away forever, right? He's 17 when this killing happens. From your perspective, is this someone who should have the opportunity to perhaps be released somewhere down the road if, in fact, he's convicted of the murder?
Well, I think a lot of states are looking at life without parole in cases where the defendant was a juvenile or under 18 when it happened, as being it's following in the line of Supreme Court cases disallowing the death penalty for anyone who was under 18 when convicted. I think the concern about him, and there's not a lot of forensic information, but he's so dangerous based on the information that it is concerning. But that doesn't mean he can't be treated for his mental illness if he is incarcerated. I was a juvenile court judge, so I always like to keep in mind that things that happen in the years when kids are juveniles are often things that might not have happened years later had they been an adult. But this is a particularly unusual case.
Unusual and dangerous, I think, is the real word. Judge Carol Erskine, Jennifer Brandt, thank you so much. We'll see you again really, really soon. Collin Griffith was out of control. He was violent. He was dangerous. And the people closest to him knew it, yet somehow he was still able to kill 2 people. Ironic.
Sorry about this. Can you guys hear me, please? Tap 1 or whatever on chat to see if you guys can hear me, because I did say pre-warned. That's okay. Awesome. Sorry about this. Internet here is crazy at the moment. We're having a crazy storm right now going through the country, and I'm trying my best to keep things afloat. Everyone, and welcome in. Make sure you press the like and subscribe. The channel does had help a lot the channel. So the next information that I have found on this case, there is a lot of videos by Law and Crime and Court TV and everyone, and I was thinking we can watch now the ones, just move along, and then at the end talk about this crazy case, because so far I am sure that this will be our next case. This case is too good and not to be our well, it's too good and too sad. Let me preface that. It's also very, very, very sad. So yeah, it is a good case. The next one is about some shocking details that I have come about this case from Law and Crime. Again, just have patience with us today with the internet. I'm trying our hard. Oh, we are safe, thank you. I like, so far so good and warm. We are also a bit warm, so thank you very much, everyone, for your concern.
A grand jury indicted Collin Griffith on the charge of first-degree murder for the killing of his mother.
Collin Griffith, the 17-year-old accused of murdering his mother a year after killing his father, will be tried as an adult. It's just one of 5 new details, including Kathy Griffith's final text messages about her troubled son. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Collin Griffith is just 17, and he's accused of murdering his mom, Kathy Griffith, in Polk County, Florida, earlier this month. This case is absolutely stunning for a few reasons. First, Collin Griffith is just 17 and had started taking some college classes early. If you were to scroll through his mom's Instagram page, you would think he and his mom had a great life and a great relationship. And second, the other reason that this case just has my jaw on the floor when I read about it and think about it, Collin Griffith shot and killed his father on Valentine's Day in 2023. He was charged with murder, claimed self-defense, and the charges were later dropped. I'll have more details on that in a bit. But back to Collin's relationship with his mom and how it wasn't as happy as Instagram would lead you to believe. There was a lot going on behind the scenes in those photos. Sheriff Grady Judd said that Collin Griffith told deputies that he and his mother had had an argument.
He met the deputies outside and he was calm, cool, collected, not upset, and he had blood on him. What we found inside was this knife. This knife is 12 inches long, and of the 12 inches, 8 inches of that is the blade. So he's saying that his mother fell on this knife.
An 8-inch blade, that's a huge knife. The sheriff said an autopsy revealed that Collin's claim about his mom falling on the knife didn't hold water.
The next morning at the medical examiner's office and the autopsy, the medical examiner said it is not reasonable or plausible that she died the way that he said she did. Just didn't happen. There were witnesses outside the mobile home that actually saw Collin drag his mother into the house by the hair on her head. Collin is about 6 foot and 160 pounds.
I mentioned that Collin and his mom seemed very happy on social media. They spent the 4th of July in Washington, D.C., and they went to the White House. And Kathy had even bought her son a new car when he graduated early from high school. But this case goes to show you that Instagram doesn't always show you everything. Sheriff Judd said there was a lot happening that wasn't posted on social media starting in September of last year, 6 months after Kathy had brought Collin to Florida to live with her, after the charges were dropped against him for killing his father.
You would think things would be better. He would be really, really lucky that, hey, this was a self-defense and I'm here with mom. But 6 months later, guess what happened? He's Baker acted. So it's September and he's as he's getting out of the original Baker Act, he makes a statement that, well, I'll kill myself or I'll kill my mother by shooting or stabbing her. Charlotte County re-Baker Acts him the same exact day. They keep him 3 more days.
The Baker Act allows someone to be held involuntarily, meaning without their consent, for up to 72 hours. It's a psychiatric hold. In November of 2023, there was another incident with Collin and Kathy.
Collin then is arrested for domestic violence on his mother. And the reason he battered his mother is because she was disciplining him and took his video game privileges away. So he beat up his mother. He pushed her to the ground and he stomped on her. The grandmother was there and witnessed this. Collin said it was self-defense. She made me do it. The grandmother said, no, no, no. Your mother did not provoke this at all. You simply were being disciplined and made to give up your game because of failure to carry out what you should, empty the garbage, wash the dishes, whatever they gave him to do. He claims self-defense when he stomped his mama, but he went to jail anyway.
There are a lot of cases that go to show you that you might need a really good lawyer. This is one of them. Paul Berggren was the lawyer who could get you out of any sticky situation. Caught selling pirated videos like Queen Latifah? Caught stabbing your spouse 9 times with a steak knife? Better call Paul. We see lawyers like this in The Sopranos or Breaking Bad, but what happens when those fictional lawyers exist in the real world? Paul Berggren was a master lawyer who knew the system inside and out. But when an FBI agent finds traces of Berggren's involvement in a massive drug ring, questions start to arise about how Paul achieved his dominance. In Wondery's true crime podcast, Criminal Attorney, host Jinx Jenkins will tell you the true story of how Paul Berggren went from representing others in court to representing himself. Follow Criminal Attorney on the Wondery app or
and he runs away from Charlotte County and comes back to Auburndale to his grandmother's house. Now, his grandmother's not there. And we got involved in this on the 12th of February. And the mother said, and the grandmother said, hey, we don't feel safe with him around. So our deputies who found him up here as a missing persons reported in Charlotte County turned him over to DCF. 2 days later, on the 14th of February, the anniversary of him killing his dad a year ago, he's reunited with his mother by DCF. Collin made the statement that I don't want to go home. I'll use any force necessary to avoid it, to include killing my mother. So that's the second time he threatened to kill his mother. 2 weeks later, so they didn't make him go home on the 14th, but about 2 weeks later, in March 2024, they reunite Collin with his mother again. Everybody's calmed down.
Kathy Griffith died on September 8th. It was a Sunday night. She had gone to Polk County from Charlotte County to try to get Collin to come home. One of her neighbors actually shared text messages that she had exchanged with Kathy with Fox 4 News. The text from Kathy says, "Please do not let Collin or police into my home. I'm not opening my door. And according to my attorney, they have no authority to make me speak with them or to come into my house. Please don't come down and try to come in because they will try to follow you in if you unlock my door. I'm fine and safe. Collin just hates me and I'm tired of this crap." The neighbor responded, "Where are you and how am I going to stop him?" Kathy responded, "Don't give them the keys. I'm home in my room." Another text shows Kathy saying she placed a bookshelf on a wall and cleared out Collin's room and that she was exhausted, reading a book and sleeping. Then there was another text from the morning that Kathy died. It reads, If Collin texts you again, please tell him he needs to come home. He's violating his probation, which he was supposed to be off of on October 6, 2024, but now he will never be because I'm meeting his probation officer Monday morning if he doesn't come home today by 10 a.m. He knows the time deadline, and he's choosing to skip it and hide at my mom's house in Polk County, which is also a violation. Kathy then texted that she was going to drive to get him, and if Collin didn't get in the car, then Polk County could deal with him. Well, now Polk County is dealing with him. Later that day, Sheriff Judd said Collin Griffith murdered his mom.
Mom drives up here to Auburndale from Charlotte County. She arrives at 4 o'clock. At about 4:30, witnesses and neighbors see Collin and Mom arguing outside, and Collin grabs his mother by the hair and drags her into the house. Just about 2 hours later, that's when we receive a 911 call where Collin said, "I've had a very, very long fight with Mom, and she fell on a knife and she's bleeding from the neck." When you look at this, you see a kid. When I look at him, I see a psychopath.
The state attorney has announced that Collin will be tried as an adult.
I made the decision to charge this 17-year-old as an adult based upon the egregious facts and circumstances of this case. Charging a minor as an adult is not a decision that I take lightly, but as state attorney, it is my responsibility to do so when warranted. There have been many questions regarding an incident from Oklahoma last year where Collin Griffith killed his father. While I have been informed that charges were not brought in that case, Polk County law enforcement continues to work with the authorities in Oklahoma to be sure they are provided all relevant information and evidence that will allow them to continue to evaluate their case as they deem necessary. The Polk County, Florida murder charge will now move on to an arraignment. My prosecutors and the deputies from the Polk County Sheriff's Office will continue to work together to pursue justice in this case.
Now remember, this isn't Collin Griffith's first rodeo. He was charged with murdering his father on Valentine's Day in Oklahoma when he was 15. The affidavit said Collin called 911 at 1 p.m., reporting that he had shot his father, Charles Robert Griffith. The defendant stated there had been an argument and Charles had pulled a knife on him and chased him through the house. The defendant stated he had been cornered in the bedroom by his father, where he picked up a gun and shot Charles twice. The part about the argument is similar to what happened with Kathy Griffith. This affidavit from Oklahoma continues. While investigating the crime scene, there were inconsistencies with the evidence on the scene and the story initially given to dispatch by the defendant. Your affiant went to the sheriff's department to interview the defendant on the discrepancies at the scene. At that time, the defendant invoked his Fifth Amendment right to counsel. The affidavit says Charles was shot once in the head and once in the chest. The prosecutor dropped the murder charge against Collin when it was decided they couldn't disprove his claim of self-defense. Kathy Griffith then took Collin to live with her in Florida after posting his bail. The Daily Mail obtained court documents that showed a custody dispute between Kathy and Charles, with each claiming the other was mentally unstable and shouldn't be around Collin. The dispute dated back to 2020. The Griffiths were divorcing at the time. Charles claimed Collin didn't want to see his mother because she was mentally unstable and abused drugs and had texted him a handwritten suicide note. The website also reported that Catherine claimed Charles was emotionally abusive. The custody case ended, of course, after Charles was killed in February of 2023. With me is Josh Ritter. He's a former prosecutor, a defense attorney, and the host of Courtroom Confidential on YouTube. Josh, your thoughts on Collin Griffith being charged as an adult?
I don't have a problem with it whatsoever, because we now have a person who's demonstrated how violent that they are and that they really are not amenable to any kind of help. I mean, he when you've got one dead body in your past as a juvenile, and it looks like that was more of an idea of prosecutors didn't quite know if they had enough to charge him given his claims of self-defense. But now he takes the life of his mother. The prosecutors and investigators in this case talked about how they felt like if he was not stopped now, he might hurt somebody else again. And I tend to agree with that. I think it's always wise for prosecutors to use a lot of discretion when you are dealing with somebody who's a minor, under the age of 18. But I think they've absolutely applied the law correctly here in trying him as an adult.
To me, when I first heard about this case, and still, my jaw just kind of drops, because you have somebody, a 17-year-old kid, and I interviewed a forensic psychiatrist who called this the Facebook fallacy. He and his mom looked great on Facebook. Everything looked happy on her Instagram page, but there was a lot of really bad stuff going on behind the scenes. And this is a mom who seemed to be trying to do everything right and to help her son and to support him. And then we have the sheriff saying neighbors, which is another confounding fact to me, witness him dragging her into the house by her hair. They hear her screaming. Why nobody called for help, I will never understand. But there is a lot of really dark stuff going on with this case.
It sounds like an absolute nightmare. This woman was living in fear for her life. I mean, remember, too, he had threatened to kill her at 2 previous occasions that we know of, not to mention, like you said, the violence that neighbors had witnessed. So here's this woman who, her own son, by the way, trying to do the right thing, realizing that if anyone is able to help him and give him care, it's her. But she's the one who's probably in most fear of him, and rightfully so, now that we have the results. It makes you wonder, what is a person expected to do in this position when authorities, if she came forward with these threats and her fear, they would likely say, well, the only appropriate place for him is in the home, because he hasn't really, committed a crime that they are able to prosecute. It's really a nightmare.
The prosecutors in Oklahoma at this point say they don't have enough to basically look back at the other case involving Charles Griffith, Collin's dad, who he admits to shooting and killing, but says it was in self-defense in February of 2023 on Valentine's Day, for goodness sakes. What is it going to take? Because to me, Collin Griffith is innocent until proven guilty, as any defendant is, but does lightning really strike twice, Josh? I mean, come on. This sounds crazy to me that we have somebody who was probably 15 at the time accused of killing his father in Oklahoma. The cops say they can't, and the prosecutor says they can't disprove his claims of self-defense. And now, a year and a half later, he's accused of killing mom.
No, you're absolutely right. I hope there is a prosecutor who takes another hard look at that case, because you're right. What are the chances that a young man like this would have 2 incredible acts of violence, which, by the way, he's claiming self-defense in this case as well. So he's learned that worked for him prior with his father, and now he's trying to use that same defense here. And you would hope that the prosecutors would take another hard look at it to see if there's any way that they might be able to resurrect those charges. And even if they don't, you would hope that they would use it as evidence in this case of prior bad acts to further corroborate that this was an intentional homicide.
I now want you to put your defense attorney hat on. How do you defend Collin Griffith? It sounds like he probably was diagnosed with a personality disorder based on some of the reporting in this case in the past. But just because you have a personality disorder doesn't mean you get a free pass for killing your mom.
No, you're absolutely right. It's going to be a very difficult case, but I think you've identified what the defense is probably going to try to focus on most, and that is to lean into this mental health defense and say, listen, this is a troubled young man. He didn't know quite, he didn't have the tools to quite deal with the stresses and difficulties he had in life. You cannot blame his undeveloped brain. You can see how these arguments would go on and on. Again, I'm being pressed because you're making me wear my defense attorney hat. I don't know how many of these will carry the day, but I think that's probably the best chance that they have.
One thing that strikes me about this is the fact that Collin Griffith, in both instances, as is his right, asked for counsel right away. He lawyered up right away. 15-year-old kid in Oklahoma accused of killing his dad asks for counsel after calling 911. He does the same thing after calling 911 and reporting that mom fell on the knife. That was his claim in the 911 call. Wow. I mean, a 15-year-old kid knows to ask for a lawyer, and then obviously again at 17 knows to ask for a lawyer. What does that say to you?
And the way that they describe it too is just chilling about how calm and collected he was. He wasn't bothered by the fact that his mother's now dead at his feet, at his own hands. Instead, he looks the responding officer square in the eye and says, "I want my lawyer." That to me says that as much as the defense may try to say that this was a young man suffering from some sort of mental breakdown, it doesn't demonstrate to me a person who does not understand the ramifications of their actions and how to protect themselves. So he knew at that time what he had done was wrong. And that is really playing into our definition of what is legal insanity, is somebody who can't appreciate the consequences of their actions. This is someone who obviously has demonstrated that they understand exactly how to protect themselves.
Well, it is a stunning case, and it's going to work its way through the courts down there in Polk County, Florida. We are certainly going to keep an eye on it because I think there's still a lot more to come out. We've already learned a great deal about the dynamic and what was going on between he and his mother in the months leading up to her death. But I think we'll learn a lot more. What do you say about that?
I think so too. There's got to be more to this. He had the grandmother, I think, was also a person that he had very involved in his life. I think we're going to hear a lot more about this because it's just, like I said, a nightmarish case.
Definitely. Josh Ritter, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with.
And we are listening a lot of more about this case because this case is about to go to court. And we are going to be following that case over here as soon as it starts and as soon as we can, because we are still finishing the Natalie Cochran trial, but they are finishing that case soon. So we might be picking up this case while Natalie is on verdict watch. And then as soon as Natalie finishes, we're going to carry on, because guess what? Natalie doesn't have a penalty phase straight after the case like the defamation trial had. So we can just pick it up and watch. Okay. Again, I think now the next one that I want to watch is we have the Polk County Sheriff's Office. I think it's the whole information, the press conference that they normally do after someone is arrested for crime. So there's that video as well from the perspective of the sheriff, and not listen just bits and pieces from what, we've been watching for the previous two videos. So that is going to be rather good one. So sharing this one again, hopefully the audio will follow, and we're going to watch that one.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with me today. I've got two items that we're going to go over. And the first one that I want to talk about is a murder, a cold-blooded murder of a 39-year-old mother by her 17-year-old son. And it's not just a singular murder, but as we got into the investigation, we found that about a year and a half, maybe a year and 9 months earlier, he murdered his father in Oklahoma. So let me tell you about this. It all started on September the 8th, which was this last Sunday, when we got a 911 call from Collin Griffith, who's 17 years of age. And here's what he said. He said he and his mother had a very long fight, and she fell on a knife and killed herself. And she's bleeding from the neck. He didn't say she killed herself, said he's bleeding from the neck. So our 911 operators appropriately were giving them instructions on how to do life-saving techniques. When the deputies arrived, he met the deputies outside, and he was calm, cool, collected, not upset, and he had blood on him. What we found inside was this knife. This knife is 12 inches long, and of the 12 inches, 8 inches of that is the blade. So he's saying that his mother fell on this knife. We started our investigation at that point. The next morning at the medical examiner's office and the autopsy, the medical examiner said it is not reasonable or plausible that she died the way that he said she did. Just didn't happen. There were witnesses outside the mobile home that actually saw Collin drag his mother into the house by the hair on her head. Collin is about 6 foot and 160 pounds. So an investigation started. This residence was at 77 Hewlett Drive, which is Auburndale, and it's called the Hamptons. It's a 55 and over community. And where it occurred was at Collin's grandmother's house. Collin's grandmother at the time was not there. She has another home in the Keys, and that's where she was. But let me go through some details, because as we start to peel back the layer of this onion, we find out that this is not just a singular event with Collin stabbing his mother in the neck and ultimately killing her. Here's what we found, and follow me as I read a timeline to you. On February 14th, 2023, on Valentine's Day, in Lincoln County, Nebraska. Lincoln County, Oklahoma. There's a Lincoln County, Nebraska too. In Lincoln County, Oklahoma, Collin said that his dad pulled a knife on him. And he shot and killed his dad. That's right. His father was named Charles. He shot him once in the chest and once in the head, and he claimed self-defense. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office and the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations charged Collin with murder in the first degree. They dropped the charges less than a month later. They said they could not disprove Collin's assertion of self-defense. So he was released. Well, when he was released in March of 23, just barely a month after the original murder of his father, he came to Charlotte County, Florida, to live with his mother. And when he came to live with his mother, Catherine Griffith, who was 39, you would think things would be better. He would be really, really lucky that, hey, this was a self-defense and I'm here with mom. But 6 months later, guess what happened? He's Baker acted. So it's September, and as he's getting out of the original Baker Act, he makes a statement that, well, I'll kill myself or I'll kill my mother by shooting or stabbing her. Charlotte County re-Baker acts him the same exact day. They keep him 3 more days. Now we're 2 months later. This is November 2023. Collin then is arrested for domestic violence on his mother. And the reason he battered his mother is because she was disciplining him and took his video game privileges away. So he beat up his mother. He pushed her to the ground and he stomped on her. The grandmother was there and witnessed this. Collin said it was self-defense. She made me do it. The grandmother said, no, no, no. Your mother did not provoke this at all. You simply were being disciplined and made to give up your game because of failure to carry out what you should, empty the garbage, wash the dishes, whatever they gave him to do. He claims self-defense when he stomped his mama, but he went to jail anyway. 3 months later, 12th of February in 2024, he has an argument with his mother, and he runs away from Charlotte County and comes back to Auburndale to his grandmother's house. Now, his grandmother's not there. And we got involved in this on the 12th of February, and the mother said, and the grandmother said, hey, we don't feel safe with him around. So our deputies who found him up here as a missing persons reported in Charlotte County turned him over to DCF. 2 days later, on the 14th of February, the anniversary of him killing his dad a year ago, he's reunited with his mother by DCF. Collin made the statement that I don't want to go home. I'll use any force necessary to avoid it, to include killing my mother. So that's the second time he threatened to kill his mother. 2 weeks later, so they didn't make him go home on the 14th, but about 2 weeks later, in March 2024, they reunite Collin with his mother again. Everybody's calmed down. Now, in May of 2024, Collin graduated from an alternative high school in Charlotte County and began attending community college. Now let's advance 4 months later to September the 6th. Collin has an argument about home chores, and he flees from his mother's house again and comes up to his grandmother's house. Grandmother's not there. She's in the Keys. So then mom lets the event calm down, and she tells her son, hey, you need to come home. And she asks him to come home and face his responsibility. Collin says, I'm not coming back home. That was September the 7th. So now we're to the fateful day on September 8th. Mom drives up here to Auburndale from Charlotte County. She arrives at 4 o'clock. At about 4:30, witnesses and neighbors see Collin and mom arguing outside, and Collin grabs his mother by the hair and drags her into the house. Just about 2 hours later, that's when we receive a 911 call where Collin said, I've had a very, very long fight with mom, and she fell on a knife and she's bleeding from the neck. Our investigation clearly and unequivocally shows that that circumstance did not occur like that. In fact, he used similar language to when he made the 911 call, 18 or 20 months earlier, when he shot and killed his father. It's important to understand, when you look at this, you see a kid. When I look at him, I see a psychopath. I see totally erratic behavior, to the point that he's already, at 17 years of age, shot and killed his father and got away with it, and stabbed his mother in the neck so hard that the knife went all the way through and was to the back of her neck, and she died there. He's being charged with first-degree murder, obviously, and we're asking the state attorney's office, it's their decision, but our state attorney's office is the greatest, to prosecute him as an adult. We've also wrapped back around with the prosecutors, the DA's office, as they call them in Oklahoma, and they said, if we develop information during this investigation that allows them, they will reopen the murder investigation in Oklahoma and potentially charge him out there. But at this time, they did not have sufficient information to charge him with murder. The unfortunate thing was now he's killed 2 people and killed his mother and father. And I can assure you, beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt, based upon his conduct, had he gone to live with his grandmother at the end of this and she crossed him, she would be next. He's violent. He's dangerous. He showed zero remorse when he was being interviewed. In fact, when we attempted the interview, he met the original deputy in the front yard. And he didn't say, "Mom's in here, Mom's bleeding to death, Mom needs help." He looked the deputy in the eye and says, "I know my rights. I want an attorney." Zero emotion about, "Hurry up, help Mom, she's bleeding, she's got a problem." He is a dangerous human being. And we have him securely locked up, and we are working with the state attorney's office. We're putting the rest of the investigation together. We have began to talk to some of the family, which has confirmed that he is a dangerous person. Before I go to the second event, are there any questions?
Sure. Do you think the system failed him, that he should have never been out? I mean, after killing his father.
Well, so when you look at this and you see how violent and how dangerous he is, it makes you wonder to what extent and what depth of investigation was done, because they released him from that murder charge that was lodged apparently within a month or so, because they were shipping him to his mother that quick. Now, did they wrap it up in that short period of time, or did they just say, "Hey, take him home," and notified the family later that we're not going to charge him? I don't know. But it's important to be accountable and responsible for your own actions. My question is, was there anything else that could have been done? Because had Oklahoma been able to act, Catherine would be alive and well today. But because she took him and tried to do like a mother should do and take care of him, she's now dead. Everybody that's special, should be special to him in his life, is dead when they crossed him.
Is there any history of abuse?
We're looking through that now to see what his family history there may be.
Sheriff, I noticed he has a charge of violation of no contact order. Who filed that, and who's that?
We're working through the back pages now. Obviously, he's been involved with DCF in Oklahoma, if for no other reason, from the murder. He was involved with DCF here. We've been putting together our criminal case here. We will go through the back pages of him and any other interactions he's had with the system to try to determine everything that we can. But what we know for sure is he's violent and he's dangerous, and he'll kill you, because he's done that on 2 occasions. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that the witnesses say they saw him outside at 4:30 with the fight. The 911 call was at 6 p.m. Is there a suspicion he killed his mother much earlier, and then what time?
We are also investigating that. As you know, with these death investigations, the medical examiner cannot narrow down the frame to a 15-minute period. But certainly there are telltale signs that we are working through. So we looked inside the house. He said there was a protracted fight, and the home is neat and clean, and no evidence of any kind of a large fight or a long fight, as he said.
Kitchen knife?
It's a kitchen knife from the house.
People might hear you say DCF was involved and, he was released. Is there anything you want to say about the system in Florida, the DCF system? Or?
Do you know, DCF has an impossible job, because all of society's wayward children and problem children and hot action events come to their lap. What did they know when? I don't know. That's part of the background investigation. I'm certainly not in a position, nor do I have an inclination to blame DCF at this point in the investigation. He was being intensely watched by the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office as a part of one of their programs down there. They had often contact with him and did a remarkable job keeping up with him. But he was not under any criminal charges at all. It was simply that he'd been Baker Act and he had made verbal threats, and a verbal threat in and of itself, until you have the ability to carry it out and the means and a lot of legal posturing, you can't just arrest people. And Mom came back up here to get him to, once again, she was angry. She needed a cooling off period for a time, and then she wanted him back down there so she could appropriately deal with him. So there's still a lot of background and a lot of DCF stuff between Oklahoma and Florida that we're looking through. But listen, when you finish all of this, what I call sociological positioning, nothing gives you the right to unilaterally stab your mother and kill her. And I'm not convinced, based upon what I know now Oklahoma didn't know this then, there were no witnesses to him shooting his dad. I'm not sure now that he didn't set his dad up to murder him. We don't know that. It's under investigation. And certainly my prayer is if somebody knows something that can help prosecute him in Oklahoma that was missed for whatever reason, they come forward.
All right, so that was the sheriff's press conference. Sorry, I was just setting up the next video. But it's just crazy to think that now the theory is that he lured the dad to actually, in the area that he didn't have any witnesses to unalive the dad, and then he did the mother. It's just crazy. I mean, this kid definitely belongs behind bars. What I did to his dad, I hope Oklahoma can find some more evidence against him, and it can actually bring a case up to him, because this is wild case. The next video, before we do read both of the indictments, that they are from Oklahoma and from Florida, and then we can see if they match. And I put this, if they match, and then we can talk about a bit more about the case. It is going to be the last hearing that he just had last week on this case, because again, this case starts next week. Jury selection is scheduled to start Monday, 27th of January, and I am expecting that opening statements happen on Monday afternoon. We will try to catch up to this case while on verdict watch of Natalie Cochran. We need to finish off, and I want to see what happens, and we all want to see what happens with that case. And going forward, this is our new case, if there is a feed provided. If not, we might have to do this in our style that we normally do our court TV cases, of doing posts that happen and then go through it like we're doing here today. So without further ado, I am going to put the latest hearing, because we might have some more case backstory behind we do actually go for the hearing, but never hurts to hear a little bit more information. See you soon, Toxic.
Attacked me, my dad, and when he did, he tried to kill me with a knife, and then it was in Oklahoma, and he died. So
okay,
yeah, how was that? I shot him.
Oh my. So there is the young man at the center of a big motions hearing today in Florida. Collin Griffith is accused of murdering his mother. This happened back in September. Now, this was months after he killed his father in self-defense, allegedly self-defense. Kind of makes you wonder now, in light of these new charges pertaining to his mom. But his claim with his mom is that she lunged at him, so he says, with a knife during an argument, and that she then fell on that same knife. Police say his story doesn't make sense. Let's go into the courtroom now. His trial is set to start next week, and his attorneys are hashing things out with the judge. What comes in, what stays out? Where we left off, we were looking at some text messages he exchanged with his mother. Makes you wonder, what did she know about his father's killing? Let's go in.
This one is Kathy admitting she went through his text messages, not because she accessed it on his phone, but because she can see them on his MacBook. So I don't know that that resolves the issue at all, because it indicates some subterfuge on her part, not willingly or knowingly allowing her to see otherwise confidential and privileged messages.
I think that's really part and parcel of like the condition on my ruling is that, you know, at its core, a child whose parent or guardian or someone acting in love with parental grandparent, whatever, who has some supervisory authority over that child, who has a phone bought and essentially controlled by an adult, that children know these days. Their parents can see what's on their phone or have access and can find ways to access the contents of the phone. So that's really the basis of my ruling. If this phone, and I struggled a little bit with, even if it's not their phone, the parent's phone, even then, because a parent has supervisory authority over a child, they may still even lack an expectation of privacy in the contents of a phone. That seemed to bridge too far, given a juvenile's right to attorney-client privilege. And so that was the basis of my ruling. So that seems to suggest that it could either confirm what the basis of my ruling is that he should have known that she had access.
Although this is a communication between her and her own mother, it's not to Collin. I've gone through the messages.
I understand, but in any event, you understand the basis of my ruling?
Yes.
All right. And the state understands the basis of my ruling.
I do, Judge.
As to the actual proof of the crime fraud exception, recognizing that it's, I think, although it's a little bit unclear, that under Florida law, the state or the proponent of the alleged privileged communication and the one claiming crime fraud would have to establish a prima facie showing that the intent was to get information for the purposes of committing crime or fraud. I think the burden then shifts to the opponent of disclosure to present evidence to refute that, and then it becomes sort of a preponderance of the evidence weighing thing. But it's on the limited information before the court, regardless of the eerie nature of the communication. The court determines by preponderance that the communications were that the communications, the state has not proved by the preponderance that the communications are excluded because the defendant intended was seeking advice with the intent to commit a crime. That is not established by the preponderance of the evidence. So the basis of the ruling is that he knew or should have known that the communications would be or could be viewed by another. All right.
And if I,
yes,
Mr. Arnott, do you have a copy of the text you mentioned?
I only have one copy. Yes.
Thank you.
And this was from your discovery, so it's
Yeah, thank you. And this is about the mom texting Susan about her reviewing.
her going through how she was able to see his messages on his MacBook.
I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Judge.
All right, as to the evidence regarding the Oklahoma killing of Mr. Griffith, Charles Griffith, I want to reiterate again, I think that the case law in Florida is ready for clarification in terms of this issue between Williams rule and inextricably intertwined evidence. And when it's Williams rule, does there always have to be similarity, or is that just for identity? But as best I can determine in this case, I am analyzing it under an inextricably intertwined evidence standard. Because it appears that one of the motives, the evidence suggests that one of the motives for that the state could prove in this case would be exposure for the crime, the killing in Oklahoma, specifically that he had confessed to murder and allegedly that there was Ring doorbell evidence of it. And that this was on the defendant's, a message sent to the defendant close in time. The court wants to reiterate that as to all of the other purposes for which the state has offered it, while it's clear, and there's really no dispute that Mr. Griffith killed his father, there's absolutely been a dispute as to whether it was the result of justifiable use of deadly force. The state has not proven by clear and convincing evidence that the killing was in Oklahoma, that the killing did not result from the justifiable use of deadly force. So that's why I will not allow it for all of the other purposes the state has offered it. So it's the only relevance that the court finds then is motive for the killing of Kathy. I also recognize the highly prejudicial nature of it, of a child who is on trial for allegedly murdering his mother, for evidence to come out that the defendant allegedly, that the defendant killed his father some years ago. So I don't find that it's relevant what the identity of Mr. Griffith is or the relationship. What is relevant is that the defendant was a suspect, person of interest, whatever they're calling him, in the killing of his father in Oklahoma, but that the fact that the alleged victim in that case was his father is not relevant to that. It doesn't matter who it is. It's the fact that he was a suspect and that now his mother is is threatening to expose him as having confessed to it being a murder. So I will allow the state through those text messages to present evidence that the defendant, the alleged victim in this case, threatened to expose the defendant as confessing to murder, but will not allow the state, unless the door is opened, will not allow the state to identify Charles Griffith as the deceased or to establish the nature of the relationship between Mr. Griffith and the deceased in Oklahoma, and also to present evidence that he has yet or has not been charged as of today.
I'm sorry, you will or will not allow evidence that he has not been charged as of today?
I anticipate that that's, I anticipate the state would do that to make sense out of the motive. Mr. Levine, did you have a question?
I did, Your Honor.
So anywhere Mr. Griffith's name appears or is stated in some audio state, whatever that might be, it needs to be taken out. And any reference to him being Collin Griffith's father.
Did you say, was there something in between the last thing and the first thing where you said the state could talk about the relationship between someone and someone?
Yes, the fact that the deceased in Oklahoma is Collin Griffith's father has no bearing on the issue for which the court has found admission of this evidence relevant. The fact is that he was a suspect in a killing of another human being in Oklahoma, whatever, I can't remember the date now, that he has not been charged with that offense. I'm assuming Ms. Thornhill may have developed that some as to reasons why he hasn't been charged. I don't know. But that he hasn't been charged, and then the alleged victim in this case threatened to expose him as having confessed that was a murder. But yeah, the name and the relationship are not relevant to that motive.
And meaning the relationship that
to the extent that they are, the danger for unfair prejudice substantially outweighs the probative value of knowing who it was and what the relationship was.
You say the relationship, and not the can't mention that it was the deceased was the defendant's dad, correct, or his name or anything.
Family, just the relationship. I mean, are you wondering whether part of whether some aspect of the relationship matters? Because if so, let's go ahead and clear that up now. The fact that he has been suspected of murder and not charged, and now has a threat that he's going to be exposed for having confessed to it being a murder, is what's relevant. I fail to see under that limited relevance what the nature of the relationship adds to the mix, whether it's familial, whether it's specifically his father.
So the jury will understand that the defendant was arrested for the crime, but they won't know that the victim or the deceased was his dad or Charles Griffith or anything regarding the name or the relationship, i.e. father-son. Okay.
Unless that door is open, I don't know if Ms. Thornhill had indicated at the hearing.
This judge has a tough job, doesn't he? So it appears that in these text messages between the defendant and his mother, that she was talking about exposing him for the killing of his father. Now, again, he was initially charged, but those charges were dropped. Investigators deemed it a self-defense incident, and he was never put through the criminal justice system and never went through a trial like he's about to go through next week for allegedly killing his mother. And so now the trial judge has a tough job here, because should the jury know that he killed his father? How should the court handle this? Let's bring in our legal analyst guest. He is the chief trial attorney in the Muskegon County, Michigan District Attorney's Office, Matt Roberts, on the show this morning. Matt, good morning to you. Oh, how might the judge handle this mess?
Well, it sounds like the judge, like you said, has a very tough task here. There's a lot of layers to this, but it sounds like his ruling is essentially the fact that he had killed his father in some fashion, whether it's self-defense or not, isn't relevant to the fact that it's his father, because the danger there is that the jury would take that to mean, well, if he killed his father, then he probably killed his mother. That's the exact reason you can't use other acts by a defendant against them. You can't just say because they did one bad thing, they did this bad thing. What he is indicating, though, is that if the motive can be established, that the reason he killed his mother is because she was going to expose him for that murder, then it definitely becomes relevant. And then the danger for unfair prejudice is outweighed clearly by the probative value. But tough task, because it's also layered with this argument about the text messages and the prosecution having to establish that there is a basis for them to be able to get to those text messages. So it sounds like he's making a reasoned ruling here. I'm sure the prosecution isn't entirely happy with it, but there's still enough for them to work with as long as they have the evidence.
Yes, great points, Matt. Matt, tell me, as you look at this kid, he's 17 years old, and the allegation is that he murdered his mother, and we know it is a fact that he killed his father. He hasn't been charged with murder at this point for that. We know initially there were some charges, they were dropped. So however that went, it went. But this child allegedly involved with killing both of his parents. What does that make you think? You're a very seasoned prosecutor. You've seen a lot. What does that make you think about Collin Griffith?
Well, it certainly indicates a person with some significant issues, and I'm sure that the Oklahoma authorities at this point are looking with great interest at what's going on in the Florida case, because it could cause them now to go back and re-examine the circumstances here and decide that they can charge this person. Now, it's entirely possible, it's as tragic as it may be, that this is an individual who both of his parents have put him in a situation where he had to use deadly force to defend himself. It stretches the limits of credibility to believe that. It's more likely that there's some trigger with him, some anger issue that is caused by some type of conflict with one or now both of his parents that causes him to act like this. But again, you have to somewhat give him the benefit of the doubt that there might be an explanation for this. It doesn't sound like we're going down the self-defense road in this Florida case, and certainly the circumstances make that more challenging given the evidence in the case that is apparently going to come to light about waiting 2 hours and the crime scene not matching up with any indication that there was any type of struggle. So defense has a tough task here to prove exactly why to make the state prove why he did this and not necessarily offering an affirmative defense here.
Right. Attorney Matt Roberts, thank you for all of that. Stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit a break. When we return, more of this motions hearing ahead of the trial for 17-year-old homicide defendant Collin Griffith. Thanks for staying with us here on Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. So we have a very important hearing happening this morning in Florida for defendant Collin Griffith. So this 17-year-old, we know, already killed his father. It was deemed to be a self-defense case, but in light of the new allegations that he murdered his mother, well, that may be called into question. We will see. Well, the trial over his mother's killing is happening next week. And right now, the judge has some very important decisions to make because he's deciding ahead of time what evidence comes in, what evidence stays out. And apparently there were text messages between Collin and his mother, Catherine, where she was saying she was going to expose him for the shooting death of his father. Let's go back in.
That case here, I don't know, given my subsequent ruling, whether she intends not to do that or to do that as much, but I'm not going to ask her what she intends to do. But if that comes out of the bag, obviously it comes out of the bag.
Now, you mentioned through text. Does that mean that any of the facts of the case or the evidence that I put on at the hearing is admissible, such as body cam footage and or crime scene photos and or anything like that?
Mr. Lemine, what is relevant is that he was a suspect, that he hasn't been charged. And I'm talking about in your case in chief. I don't know what Ms. Thornhill is going to do with that. Those things might become relevant. But at the outset of your case in chief, it's the fact that he was, and I don't even remember if they said he was charged.
He wasn't, he was arrested.
Right. So the fact that he was arrested in an incident involving the killing of another human being and that he hasn't been charged is what's relevant from that case. The details of it, unless Ms. Thornhill brings them out in an effort to mitigate the prejudicial nature of that evidence, just isn't relevant.
So the actual exhibit or your evidence that would represent that would be largely or wholly the text message that Your Honor is allowing, correct?
I'm assuming that the witness to come to court to say there was an investigation and that he was ultimately charged or arrested after the killing took place.
Judge, this is just off the top of my head, but given the limited nature of your ruling about the state's case in chief, what if, maintaining my objection to any of this coming in, we had a stipulation that fits your ruling, but that doesn't waive my objection, rather than having the state have to bring somebody from Oklahoma in just to say that one thing. I understand in rebuttal, if I've opened the door, then they may be able to call one or more Oklahoma witnesses. I don't know if that's an acceptable option.
That's something that could be considered, although I'm anticipating on calling somebody from Oklahoma. So I'm inclined not to agree to that, but I will consider and listen to that. But I'm inclined to call someone from Oklahoma to testify for the limited purpose in accordance with Your Honor's ruling. And just so it's crystal clear, the text message is admissible, correct, Your Honor?
Yes, and I should clarify, I mean, I think you can present evidence that the defendant did not dispute that he killed that person. So I would think you would need a witness for that, or if you agree to a stipulation that would need to be included in there.
Is there anything about how the killing happened, such as shot the person, so that there could be some context? Otherwise, it might be the jury will be operating in a vacuum, and it'll be very uncertain. Like the manner, was this just a complete accident? Was it self-defense? I know we're not going to get into the details, but the state would request that the fact that he shot and killed the individual, that should be admissible.
Well, I don't think any of it should be admissible.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, so I think once we start down that path, then it opens the door, just like I can open the door possibly. I think that opens the door to a whole lot more detail that Your Honor was trying to avoid having the jury hear.
Yeah, in some sense, though, it mitigates because it is a dissimilarity from the present case.
And I haven't thought this through, obviously. I'm being presented with the ruling, and
I mean, it's the fact of the killing that is prejudicial.
So that was the hearing. I'm getting way too hooked on this case. This case is literally, I think it is going to be a great case for us to follow for sure. So now we get to the final part of this research of this case for the prep of hopefully we're going to be following this case next week. Yeah, that is true, Lois, and I completely agree because it gives us, at least to me, watching true crime gives me the insight into the mind of defendants like this one, like Collin, that I wonder why they did certain things and what it led to that. Sadly, this case, it looks like it was the fact that the mom took video games away from him and asked him to help her run the house. But I think we're gonna find out that hopefully in the trial. During the trial, I am going to do some more research post stream about this case. Might do another video or a mini live stream about this case before we do start, or even throughout the court and the trial. Hopefully there was going to be a feed. We can discuss my findings and everything. Now so now we are going to go and read the affidavit. We have two to read. One is the affidavit, and then the other one is the indictment. There was an indictment on the other one because it was a self-defense case. I believe that's why. But we have an affidavit that talks a bit about the case that happened in Oklahoma, in Lincoln County. So I'm going to be looking at there because that's where I have the document, and I'm going to read. I'm going to read after when it starts talking about, because he was charged with count 1 of first degree unaliving, which is a felony in Oklahoma, which occurred in Lincoln County, Oklahoma on February 14th, 2023. On Valentine's Day. Your affiant is a special agent with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation assigned. Let me put this a little bit bigger, maybe on screen. There you go. Probably that's better. It's a little bit crooked, but that's not above with me. Assigned to the investigative division. On February 14th, 2023, Sheriff Charlie Daughtry of Lincoln County Sheriff Office in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, requested an OSBI investigative assistance on a homicide that occurred at the address that says there. On February 14, 2023, at approximately 1300 hours, Lincoln County Dispatch received a 911 call from the above-mentioned defendant reporting that he had pew-pewed his father, Charles Robert Griffith. The defendant stated that there had been an argument and Charles had pulled a knife on him and chased him through the house. The defendant stated that he had been cornered in the bedroom by his father, where he picked up a pew-pew, and shot Charles twice. Sorry, I have to say those words because YouTube is a bit funny. While investigating the crime scene, there were inconsistencies with the evidence on scene and the story initially given to dispatch by the defendant. Your fate went to the sheriff department to interview the defendant to the discrepancies at the scene. At that time, the defendant invoked his Fifth Amendment right to counsel. So Charles was pew-pewed once in the chest and once in the head. It was pronounced dead on February 14th, 2023, which could have been an immediate unaliving. So, but the fact that it says so, and that's it. The second part is just the find the probable cause for the warrant, blah blah blah. The fact that in that paragraph, right, says that there were inconsistencies with the evidence presented in the scene, and they still went with the self-defense story and agreed with that because he did not get charged in the end. This is just the affidavit. There was no indictment. He was let go because he was a self-defense case. But then another thing pops up in my head. The mom, when we were watching the video, the mom texted the neighbor saying that he was on probation. Where he was on probation of? From the domestic violence thing, or it was because of something else? Because she does mention, and I don't want to know, because that would be a question that I would have if I was a juror in the trial. Would have been, for example, if they can ask questions, is what does it mean that he was on probation? What is on probation of? I don't want to know. That's my question right now about that, because anyway, carry on. So that was the affidavit from Oklahoma. I think they are gonna be opening this case because they are indicative that they are depending maybe on the result of the Florida case, but there's a high probability of that. So now, moving on swiftly, we're going to read, which is a bit more straight, the indictment from Florida. Let me close just the tabs because, again, internet, it's suffering a little bit. So this is the Polk County, Polk County from out of Florida indictment against Collin Griffith that was filed in 2024 when this case happened. So, and then that went to the grand juries. So Collin Griffith, I'm going to read from the Collin Griffith side of things because all the other information, it's probably not important. So Collin Griffith, on or about September 8th, 2024, in the county of Polk and state of Florida, did unlawfully premeditated design to effect the death of a human being, unaliving Catherine Griffith, a human being, by stabbing Catherine Griffith with a knife, and during the commission of such felony, the defendant carried, displayed, used, threatened to use, or attempted to use any weapon in violation of sections 782.4 and 775.87 Florida statutes. So just bear with me. In such cases, made and provided and against the peace and dignity of the state of Florida. Count 2. The grand jurors of the state of Florida, impaneled and swore to inquire and true presentment make in and for the county of Polk and state of Florida upon their oath to present that Collin Griffith on or about September 8th, 2024, in the county of Polk and state of Florida without lawful authority, did forcibly, secretly, or by threat confine, abduct, or imprison Catherine Griffith and against her will, with the intent to inflict bodily harm upon or to terrorize Catherine Griffith, or to commit or to facilitate commission of any felony in violation of Section 784.1 of the Florida statutes, contrary to the form of statutes in such case made and provided against the peace and dignity of the state of Florida. I thank you, Toxie. I've seen. I will talk about a bit about that after I finish reading, and then talks a bit more. So the charges on the affidavit is first degree unaliving and kidnapping, which I believe in Florida, first degree unaliving takes a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the charge that Sarah Boone, our friend, had, and she got guilty. So I believe that was that. Okay. That was saying that he has no bond. Basically, yeah, is in with no bond because of his history, probably, and the seriousness of this case. So, yeah, in terms of him having being on probation, I believe it was because of the DV case that he already had against his mom already going on. So our friend Toxie did send some information on that. So by scanning exactly what's happening, it was because it was already having a case with of DV with a mom in this case. So like we've said before, this was going to be a rather short stream, was about a research stream about our next case, because we are getting to the end of the Nathalie Cochran case. They are I'm expecting they rest Monday, because the attorneys did say they only had an expert, and I think Natalie herself is going to be testifying in her case, and then they might rest doing closing, jury instructions, and everything. So I'm hoping that Tuesday we will be on verdict watch. The judge himself said that latest would be Wednesday would be probably the latest, and probably not even a day, because he said it depends on how they are deliberating. So fingers crossed that it is, because this trial is supposed to start Monday too. They still have jury selection to go through, but I am imagine that is going to go rather quickly, and it's not going to take them forever to do jury selection on this case, like they did on, for example, another trial that is starting today out of Los Angeles. So yeah. So and then our idea is that on Tuesday, when we'll be on verdict watch from Natalie, we do the openings of this case, and then as soon as a verdict comes, we will swap to Natalie, watch her verdict. Probably it's going to be a hung jury, so we might even have a long wait of verdict watch, so we might even catch up. We don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll be here for anything that comes up. We'll cover from gavel to gavel both trials, and we'll manage a way to do it. And then we're going to carry on with this case. If this case has a feed, I mean, I'm talking like I know there is going to be a feed. I am almost 100% sure that there is a lot of media interest in this case. So, and Florida has the sunshine law, so that is the openness of the cases to the public. So we'll probably have a feed for almost sure. I don't want to say 100% sure because I don't know. I don't work for media in America. I'm in the UK, so I don't know about that situation. So fingers crossed that it is going to be. Otherwise, we'll find something else, but still going to keep an eye on this case to follow. In terms of getting information, did you know you can find any documents and information about this case, Collin Griffith, and then the cases like, for example, ASAP Rocky, that his trial is starting today out of California. He just a very brief talk about that case. He rejected appeal and a deal of 180 days in jail, and now he's facing 24 years in prison. And he is the partner of Rihanna, the very famous popular singer. All of those cases can be found, and documents can be found on Discord. The link, if I spell correctly, Discord, the link will be on chat. Make sure you follow that. It is a great place to find information about many trials. There's awesome people there that you can find a great community in. And yeah, so that will be the stream for today. I appreciate everyone coming in and to this new type of thing that we're trying on. We are going to carry on doing like a research stream on a case that we will be following. If there is, for example, a situation that we have to start a trial, like catching up like we did with Natalie, and we don't really have time to do this, we'll try to do an extra stream on a weekend to do a bit of a research and know about this case, and then we can carry on. But we'll find a way, we'll figure it out. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You like the stream, thank you very much for that. Share it with friends that they might like true crime too, and we will see you. I won't see you on Monday. You will see Nightbot on Monday because I will be in court, and not for me. Don't worry, I'm fine. I have obeyed all the laws. It's just I'm gonna watch a sentence in the UK, and I'm really looking forward to. This is if the storm has passed and it is safe to do so. So on Monday, Nightbot will be with you. I'll try to come in later if possible. And I'll leave the stream here. Have a great afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you soon. Thank you very much and goodbye.